Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier biz development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by Jason Wells, the founder and CEO of AI Dev Labs. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Oliver. So excited to be here. Lots
It's
of
great.
stuff happening in tech these days.
Yeah, of course. It's great to have you on. It's great to meet you. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do with AI Dev Labs?
Yeah. Really quickly, I've been in the tech space for a long time. When I got out of business school, I went into tech practice, and it's been constant innovation since then. It's amazing how fast things have been moving. But AI Dev Lab is an outcome of my education back when I had a master's in mathematics, and then brought that together up here this day where AI is really taken off. But I had a software company that we started that was we didn't call it AI at the time, but it was for the call centers and understanding natural language processing and machine learning. So now everyone calls it AI. And so when I exited that company, I had some time, and I started AI Dev Lab to continue to build. And so I work with a lot of other people, and a lot of times it ends up being, hey, help me figure out what to do with AI. What should we be doing? So that's the space we play in right now.
Yeah, awesome. And as people are starting to figure out, how do you go about kind of educating them? Because, of course, in the AI space, there's just a lot of noise at the minute. People don't know what's what. Is there kind of a gap in maybe prospect awareness, prospect education that you're seeing?
So people usually don't come asking for education. They usually have an idea or something, and then it's like 50% education, 50% helping answer that question. Mm-hmm. Because you'll often hear somebody, well, if I just do this, then the AI is just going to learn. Like, well, okay, yes, but you have to actually build a model that learns, and it's a different type of model, and it doesn't always. So there's a lot of education in it. So you really learn the gap as you go through and problem solve. And I find the best way to learn is to not just teach, but to go through some process, right? To say, what do we want to do? And I actually, when somebody says, hey, I want to do this with AI, I say first, like, hold on, let's step back. AI may not be the answer. And that may not be the right thing to tackle right now. So what's on your mind? What's keeping you up at night? And it really comes back to basic business, basic operations, basic, I want to do X. And sometimes they think it's AI, but it's just using this software tool that's already available.
Right. Yeah, people feel the need to incorporate AI when in reality it's not the solution they're looking for.
Yeah.
And Jason, you've been in the tech space, as you mentioned, for quite some time now. Have you always been an entrepreneur while you were in it? What was your background like before that?
So, yeah, that's interesting. I kind of bounced back and forth from large corporate to entrepreneur to large corporate. So I was at Marriott corporate for a while, and then I moved into management consulting of Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. And so that was like very corporate. Then I went to a startup in the early days of smartphones, where actually I call it the Palm Pilot, right? Was the early days, and moved through the whole application storefront and digital content. So this whole move has just come along. So that was a startup, and then I went to Sony Pictures. And I was a senior vice president over all of worldwide distribution of new digital content. And then I moved back to the U.S. and I went to a startup. And so I find that after that exit, I find that my experience is really helpful for entrepreneurs. And it's. The sad thing is, I don't feel like I actually know the answers. They have a question, and it's like, let me just tell you my experience. Like, this is what I learned here. This is what I learned there. Your experience is totally different than mine. And so all I can do is share. This is what happened. This is what worked out. This is what didn't work out. And that's kind of the same thing that I find that is helpful with AI. We went down this path. It failed. So then we went that path. At least I can tell people where I failed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super interesting, super interesting. And over that journey, being in corporate, being an entrepreneur, what were some of the biggest kind of challenges you faced, especially alongside the entrepreneur journey, especially being the competitive tech space?
So it's interesting, and I have a very different opinion on tech and where it's come now versus where it was 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. But you've got a lot of challenges. First of all, you've got to build a product, right? Some kind of solution. And so you've got to understand what the customer need is. Very often you're too myopic. It's very hard to even get the customer, the user, to tell you what they like and don't like. So getting that product market fit is hard. That is hard. You can have really cool tech, but if it doesn't meet their needs just right, they're finicky. They will not adopt it. And so getting that, once you get that, even still, in the early days, what I find is people calculate their CAC, their customer acquisition cost. And we would calculate that, and it would be fairly low. And mostly because I was out selling, and everybody was selling, right? When you're first starting and you're getting that started, your customer acquisition, you don't count all of your time. You don't have big marketing plans. Then what happens is, in my case, in one point, we raised $3 million, our first round of funding, and we had this 18-month target to do all of this, and our CAC went through the roof. The cost for us to acquire, because we were trying to grow quickly. And so you tend to think that as I scale, my costs will come down. But what actually happens is you find your easy customers first, and then as you go out, it gets more and more expensive to get to a bigger audience base because they aren't your ideal, or you can't go to your cousin or your friend or your contact. So it's moving into that sales cycle. The cold sales cycle is the hard thing to move to because you start as an entrepreneur and you do it all yourself. But then when you move into a cold cycle and you're bringing in an SDR or somebody else that doesn't have that relationship, don't have the same selling abilities or the same authenticity, they might be great at sales, but they aren't the CEO, they aren't the founder. It's different. So it's nothing but challenges. It's everywhere you go, there's challenges as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. And Jason, I see it behind you you've got a poster there, an Ironman poster. Have you run Ironmans in the past?
I think I've done 4 Ironman.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I come from a background, I played professional basketball in the UK. I think that's something else I've seen in a lot of entrepreneurs is they always have that release, whether it be, for me, I still play basketball almost daily. Running Ironmans, people get into martial arts. How have you kind of balanced we'll call it a work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
Well, maybe I don't do it that well, but I have found a way that I can be riding on my bike training and being on call still. Maybe you call that work-life balance. Maybe you call it a screwed up person.
It's a competitive edge.
You can't let work alone, but I have to get outside and it's just what I have to do. So I figure out how to do it all. I don't really worry about balance. I just do it all. And when my family needs me, I drop everything. Sometimes you just drop everything. But most of the time I just try to do it all.
It's the way to do it.
When a client needs you, you drop everything. And so, but from there on, you just stay up a little later, get up a little earlier, and make it all happen.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And Jason, as you're growing out this company, obviously you've been in the tech space for quite some time. AI has caused a massive shift, to say the least. Over the past kind of few years, how's your mindset shifted as a CEO, kind of navigating this space?
So, I know this is a tech podcast, and My thinking about tech has really changed in the past 5 years in terms of what differentiability you can have with just technology alone. And I think that it's less and less. It's less than it was 10 years ago. If you build some new technology that you think is really cool, pretty much anyone can copy it now. Right? And they can copy it fast. And now that's not always the case, but I find that you have to spend more and more to get something truly unique. I mean, look at this. The billions of dollars spent by OpenAI. Literally billions of dollars. They come out with ChatGPT. Within 6 months, we have 10 other providers that are nearly as good. Now there's hundreds of models. And that is extreme amounts of effort, right? So, but, there are people that use Claude. There's people that use Gemini. There's people that use DeepSeek that says, boom, I did this for a few $1 million. And so again, though, it comes back to just being an entrepreneur in good business. The tech you have isn't the end all. So I think about it in terms of 3 areas. Tech has to be combined with your channel. How are you going to market, right? How do you get that to market, and how close does that fit? And the usability and the interaction. So the product market fit. How good is your product? So the tech is one thing, but is it a good product? Is it usable? I'll tell people, we can build a great AI, but if people don't trust it, doesn't matter how good the tech is. So you have to build in trust, and sometimes you have to give them half of the product, half of the technology that you could give them, because they're only going to be able to adopt so much. And so it used to be, I'm going to create something that's nobody, that's going to be my moat. I will say this though, if you have proprietary data or proprietary information, that combined with tech can be a unique, because you can do something better than anyone else can, unless they can get that data as well, or something similar, or something that approximates it. But as I said, my opinion has changed quite a bit, and I'm more focused in my mind on looking at businesses that can turn a cash flow faster than a valuation. Like in the venture world, and the world that I spent many years, and I have a venture fund, and so I think like this as well, but I recognize the downside, is you think about how can I invest, and then make a ton of money on the exit, right? And then, and you'll continue to keep investing in the product and not generate any cash flow, any positive cash flow. You're just burning all the, you keep putting into R&D and keep putting into R&D. And that's why, you keep building like that. I have moved, in my opinion, to look at how do I get profitable as fast as possible. And that wasn't really the goal for most tech startups in the venture space. It is, how do I get as many users? How do I get as much breadth? How can I grow as fast as I can? So I might sacrifice growth now for profitable cash flow, for profitable growth versus, okay, let me go raise another $20 million to take us to the next level. I think there's a time and place for that. I'll give you an example of a company that I think did this well, even when that past model was very critical. Qualtrics is a company here in Utah, and they did extremely well. These numbers may not be exactly right, but I think they were in business at least 10 years, let's say, before they raised any outside funding. They built this out of their dad's basement. They worked on this and kept it in the basement for a long time. And again, these numbers are going to be off a little bit, but I think their first round of funding was $70 million. The first dollar they took in from institutional capital was about $70 million from Sequoia Capital at a significant valuation. And I think it was Then they took a lot of money in a few years, and they sold for something like $8 billion, with the founders still maintaining a much larger proportion of that company than anyone does in a typical, VC method. So anyways, that's just, it's a different approach to run a business profitable without raising capital.
Yeah, nice. And your perspective has changed a little bit, rightfully so. The market's changed a lot. So it all checks out. And you mentioned it there. I had a similar conversation the other day. Somebody was saying, especially in the silicon space, so the tech space, it's no longer kind of that first mover advantage, that coin term back in the day. It's you could be the 10th person in the market. It's the first one that truly execute. It's going to pull away from the pot. Because, like you said, somebody can create the tech, but then it's easy to copy nowadays, and then somebody's probably going to make it better. So it's truly first to execute now.
Yeah, and it's really understanding your customer. In fact, I've done more deals. I've been working in the financial services space and combining AI with finance and accounting, and I've seen what I like is a really awesome approach to this is, let me take your accounting. I'll take your human function. I'll take that. I'll take that burden off you. And then I'll commit to you that within 2 years, I'm going to cut your costs in half. And then in the back end, it's being automated. It's implementing AI. It's taking that. But it's doing that with expertise. So the company doesn't have to do that, but they're getting the benefit of that along the way. But they're not losing anything to begin with. So I really like this approach because you're forced to understand the customer. You are your own customer. You're actually doing the work. But when I put a data scientist doing accounting, like they want to code, they want to find a solution for that pretty quickly rather than inputting. A funny thing I've been told by, I can't remember who said this, but he said, the best developers are the lazy developers. They don't want to write any code from scratch on their own. And so I kind of think about it that way. If I put a lazy developer to do an accounting job, pretty quickly they're going to figure out how to solve that.
No doubt. They'll look for the most efficient way to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And Jason, you mentioned it there, and you mentioned it a little earlier, is the element of trust in the AI space and the tech space. Being involved in a few tech companies, especially in AI, how are you going about kind of navigating that trust element of the market?
I think I need to give you an example of where I screwed up and what I learned about it. And it's a little bit, first of all, don't overpromise and don't deliver everything. So I'll give you an example. So with my previous company, Conversa, we served call centers. And one of the things that we were using AI for, and this is back in 2018, 2019, we would analyze the conversation and identify that this is a good lead, right? This is a good quality lead, but you did not move, the sales rep did not move them to the next step, which in some cases might have been closing the sale, in another case might have been a follow-up appointment. And why, and then we would identify a couple of reasons why. So the call concluded, and we were doing this after the fact, it wasn't real time. So we'd send out an alert to the manager and say, this is a missed opportunity. And we found that out of 100 calls, there were about 20 missed opportunities. Every 100 calls, there's 20 opportunities that were missed. That if a sales rep handled it better, they could have moved to that next step. So we would send all 20 of those alerts. Now you can imagine that somebody might disagree that was a missed opportunity, or a sales rep that says, no, it was like this and it wasn't like that. So there's some subjectivity to what is a missed opportunity or not. And there's also some probability, meaning of those 20 missed opportunities, there's one that's, this is 99% accurate, this is a missed opportunity. And there's another one that might be 30%. It's like, so there's signals, right? So what I learned is, when we sent them all 20, they would open up, they'd look at it, and they'd listen to it. It might have been, I don't know if I agree with that. And they get 20 alerts a day, let's say. And if I'm looking at 20 alerts a day, and 3 or 4 out of those seem to be suspect, they aren't quite, dead right, they lose faith immediately. Didn't even look at it, ignored them, blocked all the messages going forward. So this comes to, I'm going to talk about AI, false positive, false negative statistics, right? Where you say this is a missed opportunity and it's not, but but when you think about it, the company didn't even know they had 20 missed opportunities. If I just gave them the 2 most valuable, like no question, this is a missed opportunity, and ignored the other 18, they don't even care about the other 18 because they didn't even know it. Mm-hmm. So if I feed them just a little bit, that I know are the best opportunities. So I kind of underperform, right? But I give them just the best. And that was a lesson I learned in terms of how do I help build confidence. And there's no cookie cutter answer. It's how do I use this, right? Like I can send in accounting and finance, people, we'll generate a report. And when that report gets generated, they don't trust it out of the gates. Like, wait, I didn't write this. How do I know that it's right? And so we had to give them an editing screen so that they can change it. So like, okay, here you go. We built this very few people actually edited it. But the confidence then is like knowing that I have control, right? That I'm not turning it all over. Again, it's innumerable the different ways you might think about this, how it might apply to one business or another, but learning how to not get so caught up in your tech, right? Mm-hmm. And really think about the user.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a tool, regardless of what tech it is. It's a tool. Yeah. The people are the ones that have to be comfortable and confident. So I like that perspective on it. And Jason, as we begin to wrap up here, looking forward. Obviously, not going to ask you to bring out a crystal ball and tell me where you think the AI space is going, but where do you think your company's going? What's the mission? What's the vision right now?
So, right now I have really moved to the point where if you have a question, what should I do with AI? That's the kind of question we're answering right now. We're really starting at that level for most people. Because you kind of need to step back. A lot of people are adopting it or they don't have a plan. And there's a lot of risks out there as well. And so, really our vision is to help people adopt AI and find ways. And that may be, sometimes it might be building a widget for them. Sometimes it's, hey, let's just do a strategy session, put together a a roadmap for you. And so, but I think it's starting, and I've really loved the fractional chief AI officer work that I've done because it starts at that strategic level, and then I like to move it to very practical, very quickly. Get something that works, and that may not be anything that we build. I have a dev team that can do that, but I look for the quickest win. If it's off the shelf AI, let's use it, and because you've just got to start interacting with it and seeing where its weaknesses, where its strengths are. But I believe it will be more impactful than any of us can understand. It's going to be huge.
No doubt. It's business changing, game changing, life changing. AI's coming in more ways than one.
It's already done it. We don't realize it. But I mean, literally look at social media. It is driven by AI, algorithms that feed you content. Whether we like it or not, social media has changed our lives and changed the way people interact. And a lot of that is artificial intelligence. But they don't want to talk about that, but that is what's happening. And those are just algorithms to figure out, what are you going to read? What are you going to click on? What are you going to comment on? How do I know if you care? Right? So it already has totally changed a lot of aspects of our lives already.
Yeah, No doubt. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about or acknowledge is that artificial intelligence has been around for decades on decades. But
Yeah.
just in the past 3 or 4 years, obviously, the birth of ChatGPT and all the LLMs has just made a household talking point. So,
Yeah. It makes it approachable for everybody, right? So it's the first time that that's ever happened.
yeah. And Jason, I got one last question for you here as we wrap up. You've obviously got a lot of experience working in the 9 to 5 corporate world, being an entrepreneur. If there was one lesson you wish you learned earlier as an entrepreneur, what would that one lesson be?
Wow. Let's see. Take in good advisors. Somebody who's like really good, and it's usually not a paid advisor. It's and let them all in, right? Let them, somebody that you can be comfortable, because as an entrepreneur, it's very lonely. If you're, even if you have a co-founder, it's still very lonely because you're making a lot of those decisions and having to stick your neck out a lot. So having somebody good to talk with is super helpful.
I like that. I like that. And I'm going to double down on that one. Do you have any tips for differentiating between a good advisor and a bad advisor, or going out to find one yourself?
Well, my wife's a good advisor. I don't know. She's not available, but
Checks out. Checks out.
But I think there's people that are different than you. This is one of the things that I continue to fail in. I'm attracted to people that think like me because it's fun. Like I want energy. And if somebody has that, and somebody who's a naysayer, I don't want to talk to them. But you need to bring those different perspectives in, and so learn how to do that and cultivate those is a great way to do it. Sometimes those are professors, sometimes they're past colleagues, sometimes they're people that worked for you. I mean, they come from all over.
Yep. Surround yourself with positive energy, and positive things will happen. That's how I kind of approach my day to day most of the time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well,
It's been great talking. Like I said, I don't have a lot of answers, but I have a lot of thoughts.
no, and Jason, your thoughts have been appreciated by not only me, but I'm sure the audience as well. And if the audience would like to connect with you elsewhere, I'll be sure to tag your LinkedIn and your website down in the description. But is there anywhere else you'd like people to go look for you?
No, LinkedIn is a great place. Feel free to reach out and connect there. I try to stay active, on LinkedIn. And aidevlab.com, that's kind of my main homepage. Amongst some other things I'm involved in on my venture capital and other things, but that's kind of my main forte.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to tag all that down in the description for the people listening. But for everybody that's tuned in and has listened this long, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And Jason, once again, thank you for your time as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Oliver.